Hi, and welcome to a video on the first weeks of internship, what to expect. And we'll get started. So, what to expect now that you are on practicum or will be starting soon. Just some of the key points I want you to remember. First is they're all big points, and so please do prioritize these on internship. So reading the update email. This is an update email I send typically on Mondays, so beginning of the week, and it will have information on different programs, different things we're doing, just reminders about some of the things, especially sometimes we're seeing certain things or certain patterns within our students that we want to maybe address. It's going to be there. It's also the email that I ask if you want clients, whether it's for clients to do intakes or for some of those coaching programs we have, the psychoed coaching programs, uh, where the curriculum is on the websites and or therapy, to see clients for therapy. That's where I ask you if you're wanting to see clients, and you respond back to that particular email to request clients. I ask you to do that so I can keep all those requests under one email thread. So it's a lot easier for me to see who's looking for clients. And if you don't respond, then that I assume you're good with clients at that time. Sign up for the WhatsApp groups. We get a lot of questions. There's a lot of learning here. There's a pretty steep learning curve. And so chances are if you have a question, others have it too. So ask it in the WhatsApp group. We don't talk about clients and names and anything like that. That's all confidential, but it's more around just processes, any questions you may have around that, or sometimes it's about resources for clients in different regions. So we have two different emails. One is for resources to ask about different resources in different regions. If anyone knows of those, you could ask that question. We have a couple of hundred people, including our interns, current interns, and alumni that may respond. And then we have a specific one for interns, so those that are on practicum, related to administrative type questions related to OWL or Hushmail or policies around what to do when clients no show or late cancellations, things like that. I also ask you to check the frequently asked questions section that we have in our website, because a lot of the questions that we put on there have come from our students over the years. And so lots of different ways to get your questions answered, including the WhatsApp groups, the frequently asked questions, bringing it up into group supervision. And absolutely, you can reach out to me, but I would ask you to also explore those options first. And so the last point here, we offer a lot of services. So please familiarize yourself with the services we offer and the way we offer them. So when clients are asking for certain services, you're familiar with what we can offer and how we can offer it. Whether we offer it virtually, over the phone, in person, those kinds of things. What kind of services we have, all the different coaching, all the different groups. So please review that material on our website frequently. Make sure you've signed up for an email that you just create through one of the free services like a Google or Yahoo or Hotmail. And that's the email you will use for practicum. So we don't want you using your school email or your a personal email. And you're basically there's information on how to set up an auto reply. It's on the website. It'll also be in my weekly update emails, how to set up a auto reply, so clients aren't just reaching out to you outside of sessions, especially if they're struggling. We want them to of course access the appropriate services if they're struggling in the moment, and otherwise to save what they're wanting to discuss, once they're going to connect with you. So you will, once you're ready to take clients, you're going to receive an email from me through Hushmail. It's our secured encrypted system. You're going to respond to that specific email, whether you will take the client or not. Keep an eye on what it's asking you to do. Is it asking you to take it for therapy or for coaching or for anything else? Typically, those are the two, though. And so would respond back, and then if you're taking the client on, you're going to follow up for that particular service, and you will upload the form that's attached. If there isn't a form attached, then you just cut and paste the materials that are in the body of the email and upload it to OWL. If there is a form, you would upload it to documents. If there is no form, you could just upload it under the non-session notes. The important part of all this is we need all the documentation related to clients in the file because the hush mail emails are to be erased. We do not, for security reasons, keep those for very long in our inboxes. And so that needs to be done. And it's incredibly important because um, if the file is requested, that's a key part of the file, the intake, or the referral, the self-referral, whatever it may be. Why did they reach out for a service? What were they asking for? That needs to be there. If you're transferring the file, then the person taking it on needs to be able to see what was the presenting issues, what brought them to therapy. And then if you see the client, ensure that your notes are completed within 24 hours of a session. These are really important professional practice expectations. I've come across times when people had not done that, even weeks later, and that's a significant concern. And if that were to continue, um, we may have to discuss and discuss with potentially your school or your primary supervisor. Things I prefer not to do. We're here to support you, but there's certain expectations around professional practice that absolutely need to be met. And so if you're not meeting those professional practice obligations, that's a significant concern. Fees, we're here again to support you in your development and ensure as much as we can that you get your hours for client work. But I also need to consider the agency and the agency's needs. So it's not just about getting client hours. It's not just about getting the supervision hours and potential trainings that you may access. For me, it's also making sure that we are sustainable and we continue to be sustainable in the services we provide. So I started this agency because I know a lot of people can't access a traditional public sector, or they're put on massive wait lists, and then they often have the other option is private therapy, which is just not accessible to them and because of cost. So we are offering this very accessible service, but it's not for free unless someone doesn't work. There is an expectation clients pay, and that is how we continue to operate and cover our operating costs. I've too often encountered interns that weren't asking, they maybe weren't comfortable, but at the same time, I was concerned because they're picking up their hours and they're getting what they need, but basically pushing aside the needs of the organization again around survival and not just surviving, but thriving. And that's not acceptable to me. I do have to consider again agencies' well-being in addition to supporting you. So if you're not meeting these expectations, that's another concern. So please ensure that you are following up around this piece, around client fees. If you're struggling with how to ask, there's lots of support around that. You can talk to your supervisor, bring it up in group supervision. You can bring it up in the WhatsApp group, sorry. There's intern support groups that we have where a lot of this can be discussed. And again, we do this because we're not part of the traditional public sector. We are different than a private sector based on how low our fees tend to be, sometimes just a buck or two. So again, it's very important for the agency's survival and to be able to do the work we do and support thousands upon thousands of clients. Again, read the FAQs because a lot of the questions you may have may be there. And again, come to the WhatsApp groups as well if you're not finding what you're looking for, and reach out to me if you've exhausted all those different options and you're not able to get an answer. We don't cap the number of sessions we have, so we do say that there's a file review expected at 12 sessions. We also do say if clients are accessing services with interns that it is 12 sessions, but there is a potential to extend it. The reason we do this is from experience. We've had a lot of interns that are struggling with clients feeling like, I'm not really making any progress with this client. It just feels like they're a bit stuck here and I don't know what to do. It's not great for the client when they're in that sort of place where they're stuck. but it's also not great for the intern that's trying everything to kind of shift things and it's just not quite happening. And especially say sometimes clients just want to dump and you know, that's not the best use of therapeutic time, but we'll still give them that opportunity. But if after 12 sessions, it's feeling like there's not really much progress being made, then that's a way for the intern to say, okay, I can only provide 12 sessions, so I will have to refer you on. The rationale that we share with our clients is that you're interns and you're here looking for and expecting and requiring diverse ranges of experience. So it's not just a matter of working with a handful of clients for 20, 30 sessions. It's about getting many different experiences. And so that's what we would share with the client. So it is 12 sessions and then they may be transferred. So they're not being cut off, but they will have to work with someone else. But this is a discussion you would have with me. We don't do it very often, but there is that potential. Um, and I'm just sharing the reason why, because interns often felt stuck and they sometimes were almost dreading that session because they didn't really feel like it was the best use of their time and they just didn't think it was no longer a good fit with a client. Yet the client may have just wanted to continue and kind of, continue in that pattern. So we wanted to externalize it and say, this is a policy, this is kind of where we go. Having said that, if you see that they're making good progress, then you send that 12 session file review to me and I will approve continued sessions, but it's something that is required. So make sure that you are, after the 12 sessions, sending a review. And it's 12 sessions from the time you started seeing them. So if they had seen somebody 6 times prior, you could see them. You can see them 12 sessions yourself before you send the review. And and yeah, I also want to make sure that clients by that time have been paying. So that's something else I'm going to be looking for. And if they haven't, then it should have been discussed with me because we again offer 4 free sessions that still should be discussed with me from the onset, or it's something I'm aware of based on the intake or referral that they're looking for free. So I'm okay with that. But check with me anyway, and then after 4, you definitely, and before that fourth session arrives, you should be checking with me to, let me know. And yeah, if they're really struggling financially, I always say, look, if someone's going to the food bank to survive, they're single parent, they're just barely getting by. We're not going to make, we're not going to add fees to the equation to make it even more stressful for them. But having said that, the vast majority of our clients are in a situation where they can afford a few bucks. And so absolutely in those cases, I would expect you to discuss payment. All right, attend group supervision regularly. Basically, for every 10 client hours, I say for every 5 to 10 client hours. This is typical. So if you've discussed a different arrangement with me, that's something we would need to discuss, and we could proceed that way. However, generally speaking, everyone is expected to follow this sort of expectation that for every 5 to 10 client hours, you're having 1 hour of supervision, direct individual supervision, and that you could attend a couple of group supervisions per week. And so you may be then getting 1 hour of individual and 2 to 3 hours of group supervision, for every 5 to 10 client hours you see. We need to ensure that you're doing the best work possible. And so this is the way we do that, is through having you connect in supervision, individual and group, and sharing some of the cases that you're working on. Another important consideration for your internship is, don't assume that if you've been given 5 clients that all 5 are going to follow up promptly and book a session with you. Many have changed their minds already. Even sometimes within days, they've changed their minds about accessing therapy. Others may have found a different resource, which is great, right? So do not assume that if you've got 5 clients, you're going to be getting 5 hours coming up, of client hours. It's something that's hard to plan for because sometimes, yeah, you get some very consistent clients and others that are not consistent at all. So you will learn that. But I would say keep an eye on that and don't be waiting too long for clients to follow up with you. I say after a week, if you haven't heard back, close it. And if they reach out and you've got capacity, great, you can take them on. But if they reach out after a week and you no longer have capacity, that's okay too, because we have other folks that can take them on. So do not assume that, oh, okay, I've got 5 clients that have been assigned to me, and that's so I'm going to be able to get 5 hours in the coming week. That's not typically at all how it works. Out of 5 or 10, you might only get a handful that follow up, others that take a lot longer to follow up, and others that don't follow up at all. So be mindful of that. And if you're falling behind after several weeks or say several months, um, that's not something that should be happening, right? Again, if you're proactively sort of looking at these things and not letting, again, not falling too far behind, this shouldn't be an issue because it's going to be harder to catch up, especially if you've been with us for several months. If you're really behind, again, there's no reason for that because we've always generally had lots of clients, and also, every few months we have more students starting with us, and so we're going to prioritize the students starting out. Again, if you've been with us for a long while and are far behind, um, you may not be able to catch up, frankly. So, and having those boundaries, right? That if clients are um, late canceling or no showing, yes, we have empathy that often that's happening because of what they're struggling with. But in the context of, if you have appointments out in the community and you just don't show, you just can't show up the next day and then expect to be served, right? Expect to get an appointment right away. That's not how the world works, and so we want to be flexible, but not enabling those kind of behaviors. Um, and and so again, it's common, but we're also finding by charging nominal fees that we're reducing that, right? And that's always been a struggle in a traditional public sector is the number of no-shows. We've been able to reduce that, yet we still struggle with that. And so it's important to have firm, yet flexible boundaries. If you have clients that need a letter for court or for ministry or for probation or whatever, uh, you need to send that to me. We have templates on our website that you can fill out, and we stick to very general kind of area that, and very specific. The number of sessions attended, generally what was discussed within the session. We're not there to assess or diagnose. So it's a somewhat basic letter, but that's what we're going to provide clients. If they need something more detailed, they shouldn't be seeing a student. They should be seeing a registered therapist or a psychologist. But we don't do diagnoses, we don't do assessments, we don't make clinical judgments or prognosis or anything like that. And so because it's an agency, it's coming from the agency letterhead, I need to see it. I need to make sure that it is appropriate before sending out. So you would send it to me. So again, reminders is read those weekly update emails, prioritize those. There's others I send throughout the week. I would love for you to read those too because I send them because I feel like they're useful to you. Um, but maybe less of a priority. If you're really busy, then the update email is the one you need to look at as soon as you can. Um, Again, the WhatsApp groups, please stay on that, read it, even if you don't have questions. You're gonna maybe you can share and support others that are having questions, or maybe you were doing something a certain way and then you see that according to the WhatsApp group, maybe that's not the way. So I want you to, regularly read that as well. There's an intern availability form. It just talks about, well, your availability. It talks about the kind of clients you might want to work with. It talks about the languages you may speak and maybe, willing to provide therapy in beyond English. So fill that out because that's what I reference when I'm assigning clients. And there's going to be a link to that again in my update emails. I'll regularly put that in there. So I also get to then see when you've started. I get to see when you're planning on wrapping up. And so when I have clients, I can consider, okay, is this a good fit? This might be a client that needs longer term therapy. If you're wrapping up in a few months, it may not be a good fit. So these are um, approaches I use to kind of determine who's going to be a good fit. Keep separate folders. So you may have a folder that just talks about all the different trainings we offer. You know, the emails we send around training. You may have a separate folder for all the update emails I send. Others around, you know, community organizations, information on different programs they offer. So um, yeah, create folders. It's a good way to kind of keep track of things that you may use in your own practice once you graduate as well. And so just some of the rights and responsibilities. It's all about respecting your clients, respecting your colleagues, making sure, so of course, that you are showing up for your appointments, you know, making sure that you stay within the allotted time frames, stay within your scope of practice, of course. Don't practice in areas that you're not trained in, right? And so part of that is maybe recognizing when you may not be the best fit and being able to share that. I say often that um, I want you to tell me, you know, if you don't think it's a good fit or you don't want to take a client, not just because it's not maybe the best fit for you, but then clearly it wouldn't be the best for the fit for the client. And we want ultimately to do the best work possible for the client. If you don't think you're a good fit, then I want to know that. So stay within your scope of practice. Respond to, you know, messages promptly. Uh, Follow up with clients promptly. Set up a file promptly. A lot of what we do is all about responsiveness and connecting with clients as soon as we can to give them a sense of hope, to give them, you know, they've often been declined services, they've been hot potatoed and bounced around, you know, and here's a place that's saying we will see you, right? Even if you're busy this week and you might not be able to see them until next week, set that appointment, contact them, set the appointment, and now you've created something for them that they're looking forward to. And it may be one of the few things they're looking forward to. And so never underestimate how incredibly important that is if someone just feels heard and respected and that they're going to be supported. So everybody starts with a bit of practice with peers around coaching. These psychoed programs were developed because we just recognized that we could benefit from a lot of these psychoeducational skills on how to manage stress, how to manage anger, learning, you know, different mindfulness and breathing and grounding techniques. You know, just learning about what healthy relationships are and how to maintain those and what skills you need to have healthy relationships. So these are psycho ed programs. They're scripted based on set curriculum and they're meant to complement therapy. But not everybody that does them may be taking therapy, but most of our clients seem to be. They seem to be attending for therapy, they seem to be attending coaching, they may be coming to groups. So they're getting sometimes 3 or 4 points of contact per week, which I think is actually much more appropriate than that once a week intervention, you know, when it comes to healing from whatever they're struggling with or just coping with whatever they're struggling with. So again, it's a psychoed program with set topics, with a set number of sessions, and you're expected to stick to those if you're doing the coaching, because if a client wants to talk about other things, then that should be done in therapy and that's done with someone else. And and we have different practitioners providing all those services because we want our clients to have, you know, to expand their network of resources and not just rely on one person. So at no time should you be doing um, more than one of the interventions with a client. You know, you shouldn't be doing multiple coaching or you shouldn't be doing therapy and coaching. And so coaching is free, set curriculum, it's scripted, limited number of sessions versus general therapy that's just open to whatever the client might want to talk about that day versus, again, a set topic. There are fees generally, and if not, then again, you've discussed it with me. Um, and yeah, there's no cap on sessions, and they can be complimentary. And we often maybe get clients that are sort of mandated, maybe courts or probation or ministry. Maybe they don't really have any clinical goals to talk about, so psychoed would be very appropriate in that case. Um, we ask everybody when they're starting to do it with a peer simply because it's a good chance to practice, kind of learn about the different topics in each session, which you may then end up using in your general practice as well. Um, so there's value there. It's a chance to kind of work through some of the nervousness that people very much feel, and it is very much normal when they start. To do it with a peer, to take turns, to be able to debrief. It's a chance to use our OWL practice platform and sort of work out some of the ways to use that system. And so you would work with a peer and you would take turns. And once you had that opportunity, and you don't have to finish those coaching programs, even just a couple of sessions in, if you feel fairly comfortable with the next step, then you can reach out and ask for clients to do coaching with as well. And then at any time as well, you could reach out to ask it to work with clients for therapy as well as to do some intakes. Um, so intake, I just mentioned, we are getting a lot of folks that are just being referred, or they're self-referring through our secured link that you can find on our website. It works through the Hushmail platform, and it's a secured encrypted system. When they complete it, it comes to me, and that's what I then pass along to one of the interns to follow up around whatever the service was that was requested. But we still have clients that will reach out by phone, and they'll leave a message and say, my name is so and so, and I'm looking for therapy. Usually that's as much as they say. And so that is when an intake is done. It's a scripted process, that goes over all the rights and responsibilities, limits to confidentiality, um, the and the different services that we offer. And once that's done, the intake is completed by an intern, and they will then upload it to this link that I could always send you, or it's again in one of my updated emails that I send out. But you send it through that secured link, it comes to me, and then I pass it along. So you as an intern, if you're doing therapy, you will receive either an intake form, which again um, was like when the client left a phone message, and an intern followed up. You will either receive that, or you'll receive the self-referral slash referral form. That's when the clients themselves or somebody else will refer them through that secured link. And then once in a while, we still get faxed referrals. Doctors tend to do that, but not too many others. And whatever form you get that talks about, here's the client, some of their information, here's why they're seeking counseling, whichever way you get it, again, that needs to be uploaded to the client file. When the intake is done, the whoever did the intake sends it to me. They don't start the file, they don't create a file. The person that creates the file is the one that's going to be taking the client on for coaching or counseling. And so if a client asks for coaching and counseling, it's basically whoever gets to the file and creates it first. Because once you enter the person's name, um, in OWL, it will alert you if there's already a pre-existing file. So please keep an eye on that. We've had many people who didn't notice that message and created another file, and that just gets messy when you have multiple files for one client. There should only be one file for a client that counselors would be attached to. So if a client is doing, uh, say, counseling and coaching, there should be one file, and the interns that are seeing that client, they would share that particular file. There'd be one file. And so you will create the file, and if you get an alert that the file already exists, then you would let Halima know, and she would transfer you to that file. All right. We're almost wrapping up here. It's just a few reminders. I say this often, you may hear me say it. It's just we can't carry the weight of all our clients' needs on our shoulders. We are not part of the traditional system of care. We are a unique organization that is meeting a massive need and probably doing as much as many of the publicly funded services when it comes to counseling. But in the end, we're one resource, and there's only so much we can do. We have clients that are struggling with so much, and I have great empathy for them. But just be aware that you can't carry all that on your shoulders. And so, um, if you're seeing them once a week, then maybe you can also encourage them to explore other options, maybe a couple of the coaching programs, some of the groups, of course, other organizations in the community that they can be also accessing. Um, And if they're wanting multiple sessions, you would discuss it with me. And again, going back to what I mentioned, it's key. So much of what we do is around respecting the work, the clients, and part of that respect is being responsive, being prompt. And so respond. If you're going to take a client, connect with them within 24 to 48 hours, book that appointment, even if you can't see them in the current week and it's for next week, then again, that's part of like respecting our clients. It's part of giving hope when sometimes there's not much otherwise. And so that's important, but it's also, like I said, recognizing that you're a student learner that is very capable of many, many great things, but we can't always address everything our clients need. And you want to stay, of course, within your scope of practice, and we will look for other resources to support the client. But again, just even recognizing that a lot of what the client is struggling with took years to kind of build up. And so a lot of this isn't going to just be unraveled overnight. And we're there to support them, but don't put all that pressure on yourself. So complete your case notes within 24 hours. I do spot checks. And again, I'll be honest, I'm not happy when I see people that have failed to do that. That's a concern. And if it were to continue, that becomes a professional practice matter. So it's not just about getting the hours and getting the supervision hours and client hours. It's about ensuring that you are professional in all aspects of your practice. All efforts to contact and non-clinical notes. We get clients often saying, I reached out a month ago, no one's got back to me. And almost always, frankly, someone had tried multiple times. And I'm not saying the client is lying. I've seen it happen too often where I've realized it's not, in some cases maybe they're being dishonest. In others, it just never registered. They were just going through so much that yes, they heard the message, they saw an email, but it just didn't click for whatever reason. And so in their mind, when they're maybe feeling a little bit more clear-headed, they're they don't remember and they kind of assume no one's contacted them. So we need documentation. We need every effort documented. Um, and it's not like I'm going to argue with a client. I'm just going to look at the file and say, okay, it looks like somebody was trying but wasn't able to connect. So no problem. We can try to get you connected now, kind of thing. Right? But at least I know if I look on a file and it looks like there's been no effort to contact, then that's a concern, right? Even if you did it and you just didn't note it, that's a concern. So note all your efforts to contact. Um, Upload any client material to client files. If you write a letter and it goes to me and I approve it, a copy of that needs to go to the client file. Of course, again, the intake, referral, self-referral, those forms, any other kinds of um, information, communication over email, if it's pertinent, right? If it's just like a reminder email about their appointment, then you don't need to document that. Most other, anything pertinent to the client file needs to be in the client file. Again, discussing free with me, discussing the extension of free with me, um, recognizing that the 12 sessions isn't a hard cap, but a chance for us to kind of look at what the client's been doing and if progress is being made. And if not, then potentially referring them on, not cutting them off, but referring them on to someone else so you can then move on and have other experiences as part of your practicum. Make sure you attend individual supervision every 5 to 10 client hours unless you've discussed with me otherwise, and attend the group supervision. Generally, I would encourage you at least once, but even 2 times. Anything beyond that, check with me, and we can discuss if you want to attend even more group supervision than a couple that I've mentioned. All right, that is what to expect for the first few weeks. And again, um, we're here to support you, right? But we also want to make sure that we are doing quality work. We want to make sure that the agency continues to be sustainable throughout many, many years to be able to meet the massive gaps in service that exist, that we're already doing a great job in addressing, I feel. And so when in doubt, reach out and yeah, um, have a good first few weeks and of course beyond that.